Okay, this is the review and wrap up. Part 4, it's going to be short and sweet, so let's jump into it. We're really just going to use this as an opportunity to talk about some of the elements that haven't been covered, and there are more in the Linker Network playbook that we won't cover, but just to touch on and say that place-based integrated services is an important part of the thinking that underpins all of the Linker Network. And in the playbook, there's a section that speaks to what is place-based integrated services, and really is there to invite member organizations to say, if you can identify possibly some hotspots in your patch where you feel like there would be a significant benefit in a focused and integrated approach to addressing a specific issue or a section in the community that's particularly disadvantaged, there's some information and some support around how to go about doing that. Collective brokerage is another aspect of the Linker Network that invites member organizations to start having conversations about how they might be able to collaborate on the use of resources. That might be about creating a pool of money to meet critical need, as we typically associate with brokerage, or it might be about sharing vehicles, or it might be about, in some examples we've seen where no one organization has the capacity to facilitate a on-call worker for after-hours emergencies, but 15 member organizations might collectively say, well, I can nominate a person, an employee, for one week a year, and then collectively we can all come together and say, okay, well, no one organization had the capacity to do that on their own, but through the Linker Network and through the sort of mechanisms allowed through collective brokerage, we can have that conversation, we can reach an agreement, and we can do something that individually we would not have been able to do. Outcomes-based contracts. Every part of the Linker Network operates from the assumption that we are outcomes focused, and the development of the Linker Network, while it's not limited to fax funded services, it has been happening, and the development was coinciding with the targeted early intervention reform, and a critical piece of that reform process was moving towards outcomes-based contracts. And so many of the parts and the relationship kind of work and the linking kind of work really speaks to this idea of saying, let's start focusing on the experiences and the outcomes, and working out how to get our clients there, and not spend our time and energy being focused on artificial boundaries and bums on seats and the traditional kind of limitations and traditional kind of thinking that we've historically seen by virtue of the fact that we have these contractual arrangements with government. So if your organization is not operating on an outcomes framework and is not benefiting from an outcomes-based contract with whatever funding body you work with, because you may not be New South Wales fax funded, the Linker Network, I guess, would say we encourage you to have that conversation and to move to implementing an outcomes framework within your organization. Shared systems and tools. A lot of what we're trying to achieve with the Linker Network, of course, is collaboration, and collaboration can't happen without good communication and consistent communication. And while we're not in a position to deliver or roll out a suite of shared communication tools for members, we may well get there, and it's something aspirationally that the Linker Network would like to do, but as it stands, we're not in a position to do that. So what we're doing is providing some information through the playbook on a range of free or low cost collaboration and communication tools that are available, and asking those local Linker networks through their collaborative practice meetings to investigate those various systems and tools and to agree on which ones they want to use. And what we hope to see is that over time, as more and more local Linker networks start playing with some of these shared systems and tools, we will start to build a body of evidence to say these ones work really well and are very much worth the investment and the time and potentially a negligible cost or a marginal cost, versus some of these other ones that might look good but don't actually fulfill our needs. So the message there is to say, as a member of the Linker Network, your organization will participate in some shared systems and tools. Which ones that you use will depend on what the decisions were made by your local Linker Network through their collaborative practice meetings. Common training and induction. Well, you're already doing that now because every member of the Linker Network has access to this training and everyone will be doing it. There is some face-to-face training that takes what you've looked at today and spends some more time on it and goes into depth. The expectation is not that every employee in every Linker Network organization does that half-day training. It's probably important that one or two key people from your organization do that, particularly when the organization is only just become a member and they're learning how to implement the various enablers and tools into the organization. But certainly the Linker Network is there to coordinate and facilitate common training and induction for new members and staff. And indeed, it's not limited to that, because through those local Linker Networks and the collaborative practice meetings, managers will be talking about other training opportunities that they can draw on in a collaborative way to ensure that there's a level of consistency across all of the organization. So an example of that might be to say, well, what we want to do is ensure that all of the 15 members of our local Linker Network, all the staff participate in the same trauma-informed care practice training. There's lots of training out there, but we want everyone to go and do the training that's run by Jill Jones, because that way we've all done the same, and when staff start making referrals between organizations, we have some shared language and some shared understanding around these things. So common training and induction for the Linker Network, but also some mechanisms built into the way that we work together to start driving some more common training and induction around some of the other critical parts of our work. And lastly, to finish, evaluation and continuous improvement. The Linker Network is working with Western Sydney University to develop an evaluation framework that really looks to understand how the intentions that are built into the Linker Network are actually playing out. Our clients, our people and families and our communities getting better outcomes because organizations are participating in the Linker Network and because we are working in a more collaborative way. That's an assumption, and we need to test that assumption. And part of that testing process is actually looking at, well, which bits are working well in driving those outcomes, and how can we enhance those and ensure that they're being rolled out in a more rigorous and consistent way, and which are the elements that are not operating in the way that we intended and are not actually having a benefit, and let's stop doing those. The very obvious process of continuous improvement. And so that brings us to the end of our hopefully just over 1 hour orientation and induction to the Linker Network. The website is really your best go-to place for follow-up thinking, for questions. Remember, there is a team here available to help. We're only an email away. And with that said, I say welcome. Welcome to your new role in your organization, or welcome as a new member of the Linker Network. And we look forward to working together.